Hello everyone and welcome back to Kentucky Garden Gal. I am Nancy, and in this video we are going to be talking about planting in the fall and why it's one of my favorite seasons to plant. But before we get started, I wanted to welcome all of the new subscribers. We have several and I'm so happy that you're here. We are coming to you from South Central Kentucky, which is a Zone 7. And we are a trial and error garden. I'm the type of person that just has to get out. I can read the back of a package, I can read a book, I can watch videos, but I really have to get my hands in the soil and I have to grow a plant before I know it. That's just how my brain works, and I'm happy to share my successes and failures with you so that maybe you have a little bit easier time than I have had. So, getting back to planting in fall, what we are talking about are trees, shrubs, and perennials. Those are the three things that we're talking about, why it's so much easier, I think, to start them in the fall versus the spring. And number one, the ground is already warm. It's, the ground temperatures is what we have to really look at, because we know that it has to be 50 degrees before anything is going to actually start growing. So when you're looking at your night temperatures and they're, even when they get down in the 40s, you're still okay. So when you're planting your trees, shrubs, or perennials in the fall, we know that we have the warm soil temperatures, which makes the root growth, which is the most important thing for our plants. Our plants, your root system, what you see below the ground, predicts everything that you're going to see above the ground. Their ability to fight off insects and diseases, plus the blooms that we're looking for. So the healthier your root system is, the better your soil is, the better plant you're going to have, and less problems in the long run. So it's really just setting up a good foundation for your plant to do well for you. So if you are planting things like hostas, astilbe, your grasses, daylilies, anything that maybe you've been able to divide in your garden to make more plants, you really want to get those in by the end of September, because you want to look at the first frost date in your area. For ours, it's generally October the 15th, and if you're not sure, just go to Google and put in your zip code and first frost date, and that'll kind of tell you what you can expect in your area. So with the smaller and the more tender things, like your perennials, you will want to make sure that you do continue to water them. Now, we know when we're planting in the spring, we know that everything we plant has to have water for the first year. So, we're making sure that that plant is growing a strong root system, like I keep talking about. So in the fall, the same way, and you're going to continue to water all the way up to the first freeze. And then after the first freeze, nature takes care of it for you. It's so much easier. So versus trying to keep your plant alive, for us, August is just a very hot month here in Kentucky. I'm usually out watering twice a day. If I have something in pots, it could be 3 times a day. I know it's really hard to keep stuff healthy here in August, but if you have planted in the fall, you're kind of ahead of the game come spring. And also in the fall, when the leaves are falling off the trees, you can have a good look at your landscape and you can see where there's any holes. Maybe you want to add more color or more texture. this is a perfect time to do that. And I also wanted to mention, I follow a lot of gardeners in England. That's probably my favorite. That's my favorite place to look at gardens, and they have had this down pat for a long time. It hasn't quite made it to the States and is as popular as spring planting, but once you get in the habit of dividing your plants, and also now's a great time when nurseries are wanting to get rid of their stock because they're going to have to overwinter everything. So oftentimes you can get really good buys on trees and shrubs and things like that. So it may also be a little bit more economical for you to plant in the fall. Now, we are specifically talking about, I'm going to keep saying this because I don't want you to try to maybe plant something that's an annual and then it fails. You need to make sure it falls into the tree, the shrub, or the perennial category. There's two particular, one is a tree and one is a shrub that I want to talk about. And a burning bush. I know that burning bushes are very common here. And in November, you can take a cutting from a burning bush, take off the lower leaves, and insert that in the ground, or the soil, wherever you want to have this shrub. In fact, the one right behind me, right there, that's exactly how I did this shrub. I just took a cutting off, I put it in the ground in November, and it'll grow roots, it'll sprout, and it'll be fine. A willow tree is also another tree that you can just take a cutting from in November, put it in the ground, and it will develop roots, and you'll have a tree wherever you plant this. I happen to have the crooked willow or the curly willow. I think it might even be called Jacob's walking stick willow. And this later on, probably in November, I'm going to take several of those to the farm, including the burning bush, because I want a whole hedge of those. It's so pretty when if they get a lot of sunlight. The burning bush will turn bright red in the fall. Now the one behind me doesn't get enough sun in order to do that, but if you have an area that has full sun, that's a beautiful place to plant a hedgerow like that for a lot of color in the fall. So those two things. Now also, I wanted to tell you about the Arbor Day Society. Of course, we all know the Arbor Day Society. You know, I think I've probably ordered from it in the past, but I really sort of got seriously into the Arbor Day Society when I needed to purchase trees to plant at the farm in East Tennessee. So generally speaking, when you go to the Arbor Day Society website, you can sign up. The minimum is $10, and for $10, they will send you 10 trees. So what do you do if you have gotten these trees and you're not quite sure where you want everything, or in my case, I'm not at the farm? So I have these big tubs. I just bought them from Walmart, and we'll go around and look at them in just a minute. But I filled these tubs with soil and compost. And, you know, these are usually bare root trees, so they basically look like a stick. I know the first time I ordered something as a new gardener and it came bare root, I was like, they sent me a dead stick. Can you believe that? You know, I didn't understand about the bare root. But when I have an order coming from the Arbor Day Society, so I have a big, these are probably, gosh, I don't know, maybe 10-gallon buckets. I put holes in the bottom for the water to drain out, for drainage holes. But I will just pop those in there, and you can grow those in there for as long as you need to, because anything that you're starting as far as using your propagation methods that you're starting now, it should survive the winter. Now, if we had just the crazy freeze like we did last year, you may lose some things. But as a general rule, if you have something in a pot, now I do always try to put it in a protected area where it's protected, from the cold air and the wind from the north. Maybe set it up against a building where it could radiate some heat or something. I do try to give them the best home possible. But if you find yourself in a situation where you have acquired some trees or shrubs, just go ahead and pot those up. And then when you're ready to plant them, maybe it would be a month, 2 months, it could be a year. Whatever, your plants are going to do fine as long as you have given them a good home. So let's walk around and I'll show you some of the things that I'm talking about. This is the burning bush that I was telling you about, and all you need to do is just take a good stem, take the leaves off, and stick it in the ground. Now I would go ahead and make sure that I have made a hole. Like I usually stick something in the ground. I have this big screwdriver that I've had for years, and that's actually what I use. I just stick it in the ground, kind of wiggle it around, and then I pour water in it, and then just insert your stem from your tree or your shrub, and you're ready to go. Take your foot, kind of secure it in there, pat the soil down so that it doesn't have any wiggle room or anything, and you're ready to go. This is the crooked willow that I was telling you about, and the reason I love it, look, first of all, it doesn't necessarily come down like a weeping willow. So for me, in my backyard with a smaller space, this particular tree has just been wonderful, and you can take the sticks out and put them in arrangements. There's just so many. I think this is such a beautiful tree, and there's so many things that you can do with it. But what I would do is come in and just cut this off right here and then stick it in the ground. Like I said, the same method where you make your hole and then you water it and just stick it in there wherever you want this tree, and it'll grow. These are the tubs that I was talking about, and I believe back when I purchased these, they were $6. Now I haven't checked. I know they're not that pretty, but I am almost sure that I have had these out here for at least 10 years. And one of the reasons I really like using these is because if you have herbs that have a tendency to spread, you can plant your herbs in these tubs and they do just fine. They're not spreading and encroaching on other things in your garden or taking over, becoming invasive, whatever. But you can see how much soil is in them. This happens to be a birch tree that I had gotten. I was trying to see how many's in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know, maybe 13, 14 trees. And I had gotten these, let's see, I think it was in late winter. The conservation office in our area, they were giving those away, and then these pawpaws right here were the same way. So I think I also had gotten dogwoods. I know I got dogwoods, but I planted what I wanted here. I put these in these containers. They have spent this entire time here, and then I'll be taking them to the farm in a few weeks. I'm probably going to go up just a couple of times before winter to do some planting. And the reason I'm doing it is because I'm not there to water, and I really don't have a water source at the farm, so I can take my trees and shrubs up and plant them and let Mother Nature do the work for me. And I know I may not have 100% success, but I feel like it's really the best I can do since I don't live there, and I do want to start a lot of new trees and things like that at the farm. I'll show you a couple of areas in my garden. So what you're looking at right here, this is a maple tree that a bird planted for me, and I love maple trees. So I am letting these grow, and then I will come out. Probably don't want it to get too much bigger, but I will come out and pot this up and take it to the farm and plant it. I wanted to show you that I know I often talk about know your weeds in your garden, and the reason I think that is really important is because you need to know the difference between a weed and a flower or a tree or a shrub. So in this incident, I have a nandina that has popped up here. There's two more that have popped up over in this, and what I will do is come in and dig those out. I'll make sure it's nice and wet before I even attempt it, but I will dig those out and pot those up, and I have 3 free nandinas. And I know there's a little bit of controversy over these, but I really like to use these in the wintertime when I'm decorating. They really give a lot of texture to your Christmas decor. And I really want to have everything that I have here at my house that I use for decorating at Christmas time. I want to have the same thing at the farm, so if I'm up there and I want to decorate, I have what I need up there. I wanted to show you this. I have been coming out. This is sedum, and I want you to look at all of the bees on this. They absolutely love it. And this is another plant that is so easy to grow. All you need to do is break off a stem and put it in a pot with some soil, or even directly in the ground. And I'll show you some just in a minute that I have propagated, but the bees just love this. And you can see the color of this one, but look at the color of these. And see, there's another bee on it. Look how pretty those are. And yes, they do fall over like that. That's just sort of what this plant does. We are back in what I call my propagation station. And these are things that I have started from my garden. And I wanted to show you this. This is the Savannah holly. And these were seedlings that had popped up in different places in my garden, and I wanted to show you. This is new growth. We know that this is alive because look at the new growth on this. And when you're doing things like this, I believe this right here is the curly willow, if I'm not mistaken, and look at the green growth on that. Typically, when you are taking something that is a plant or a shrub, you're either going to be digging it up by the roots, like I did the nandinas and the Savannah hollies. But if you are taking a cutting, you want to have it no thicker than a pencil. That's what you're looking for, and you do want to take all of the leaves off because you want this plant putting energy into the roots, not trying to produce a flower or a leaf. These are the daylilies that I dug up and divided. Remember, we were just talking about the sedum. I have 3 pots of sedum here, and I would have just taken a piece and put it in the soil, and these are growing, ready to go. I see some Rosa Sharons back here, and I believe I pulled those up as little saplings. Those will just come up volunteer, so you really have to watch those that they don't kind of take over. Here is a Nandina that I started. In fact, there's two in here, and you can put, you're just providing these with a temporary home, so you can put more than one in a container. Here I have two irises that you see are just doing well. I thinned out my irises. There's hostas back here. Let's see. These are some cuttings that I took of boxwoods, and the same thing, you just want to take a very slim piece, take off the leaves where you stick it in the ground, and then, like, I would say this probably isn't developing any roots, but I would almost guarantee you this is. Do you see the difference in that? And then if you know, it'll be obvious when something has died. I mean, it'll be brown and it'll be dead. But then if you're really not sure, you can always gently pull out your stem and see if there's any roots that have started, and if it is, just stick it back in. But yeah, we've got all kinds of things back here. Here is another maple that I found somewhere that I went ahead and potted up. I'll be taking that to the farm. But all of these things that I've planted up back here will have a home at the farm in East Tennessee. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I appreciate everyone that comments and likes, and I just appreciate the gardening community that we have. I appreciate everyone who is over on the Facebook page, and I will put a link into that, and we are able to kind of talk daily and get to know each other a little bit better. But I just appreciate everyone, and I'm so glad that you're here. You all have a blessed day.